What up, what up, what up? I promise you, this was working fine before I hopped on. Right? Camera be working fine, and then as soon as I'm ready to go live, we got shakiness. But we're gonna make it work. We're gonna make it work. I hope everybody's having a great start to their Monday. If you see any choppiness, charge it to my camera, not my heart. Like I don't know what's going on. Hope everybody's having a great start to their Monday, and we're gonna go and get right into it. So I got a question for you, as always. How do you know if your outfit is competing or if it's bold? And then how do you know if that is the expression that you want to have in a certain situation? Is it conflicting or competing with the situation that you find yourself in, or is it complementing it? And the reason why I want to have this question is because a lot of guys, especially a lot of stylish guys, when we were talking about Pity last week, they have this desire to be bold and to be expressive with their look. But a lot of times, guys don't have the understanding of taste and also of reverence, right? And just being mindful of the places that they're in. And remember, guys, this is a conversation, it's not a lecture. However, if you don't have anything, any questions to ask, or any insights that you want to provide as far as participation, then I'm just going to speak because I got something that I can talk about, even you guys have, if you guys don't have questions. So I was thinking about this, just thinking about Pity, that a lot of guys are thinking like, how can I be bold? But they don't realize that they are either creating a conflict in their look or they're competing with the spaces that they're in, right? So how do you know if an outfit is conflicting, like it's creating some contradiction, some interest, some intrigue um, in that space? I'm sorry, if it's creating conflict or distraction, or if it's creating intrigue, interest, and interaction with it being bold. Well, a lot of times it is breaking down three elements of your style. One is going to be color, right? Paying attention to the color. The second thing is going to be paying attention to pattern. And then often the last thing that is going to be uh, a more important conversation that a lot of guys are going to overlook is situation. So we're going to talk about how all of those things work together. But before we do, how do you guys define conflict? How do you define competing? And then how do you find complementing? You can either put it in the chat or just think about it yourself, right? A lot of guys don't think about how something can compete with a look and or a situation, and then how sometimes something is conflicting with something else. So if we think about a conflict is going to be a disagreement. It's going to be a headbutt type situation. Pause. Right? It's going to be something that is going to create discourse, to create chaos within a conversation or within a presentation. And what has often happened with a conflicting look is you're putting something on and it doesn't work. And I've seen this with some stylish guys who have a good concept or idea where they put on, let's say, a hot pink sports jacket coming into spring and summer. And then they pair that with a very gold, but light gold color. So a wheat color trouser. And then they pair that with a very electric blue shirt, right? So in theory, if you can imagine hot pink, right? So you have a very saturated and very high intensity color paired with a color that is going to be high intensity and also high in color. And then you have on a bold pair of trousers that is not necessarily going to be high in intensity with the color, but it's going to be something that is still going to be loud, if you will. And they wonder why, like, everybody's looking at them, but they're not looking at them for the right reasons. And it's usually because the colors are in conflict with one another. There's nothing to create that complement, which we'll talk about, in their ensemble. Now, a great way to offset this is if you're going to do something that's bold, like a fuchsia or hot pink sports jacket, to then temper that with a light blue shirt or something that's almost ice blue. And an icy blue can be something that almost can look white. Just by paying attention to the angles, you'll get those hints of blue. Or you could still have a powder blue or a sky blue or a baby blue type of shirt. But you want to make sure that the tonality, which the tonality is the depth and the saturation that will come in to the color um, when you're putting it on, right? So it's yes, also black, the black that you add to the color, but it is the depth that the color is going to have. So if you have something that is more of a deep, rich sky blue paired with that hot pink, it softens the look. And then you can anchor that. If you've been rocking for a little while, you know that the pants are the pillars. They're what you stand on, right? And I'm sorry, they're your center of attention. So then you have something that is going to soften the look if you throw on a milk colored or a very light cream colored pant and trouser with it. And this look is still bold, but now it is creating a look that is tempered, that's thoughtful, that's tasteful, that's sophisticated when you're putting it on. Now, what's the difference between that and a competing look? Well, oftentimes competition is not so violent, right? Conflict can almost be violent to the eyes, right? You can look at a conflicting look and be like, man, my eyes hurt, like, because this is so loud. But a competitive look often is going to speak to the situational awareness or lack thereof that you have when you're stepping out. So, what will often happen to a lot of guys is they're going out to a space, and while they should be stepping back and being able to just move throughout the room, they're garnering a lot of attention, right? But it's not about where you are. So you're almost competing with the host. You're competing with the person that you're there to celebrate. You're competing with the situation that you're in. And so you're garnering attention, but it's taking away, for better or for worse, from the situational awareness that you should have, right? So you don't want to complement, or you don't want to compete with a situation. You want to make sure that you're complementing the space. So this happened to a client of mine. He comes in and he goes to a party, and this party is a gayless charitable event uh, with a silent auction. And so when he is going around, walking around, he's starting to notice that he's capturing the gaze of other people, right? People are starting to stare at him, and some are smiling, but not in a like in a delighted way, but more in a comical way. And this was something that again he was well dressed, but it was because his fly was open, and his shirt that he had tucked in was sticking out of the fly, right? So it was competing for the attention of the rest of the room, right? We're here silent auction, people are laughing, people are snickering. He was mortified. He left for a minute, composed himself, tucked the shirt back in, came in, had a story that he could laugh at, and the conflict or the competition was very small, it was very limited, but it was competing with this space and the ceremony that you were there for. And so a lot of times when on another extreme, I have guys who are trying to be loud, they're trying to be over the top, they're trying to be extra. It's in the wrong situations. So I can tell you how many times guys are being over the top and loud when it comes to somebody's birthday, which is inappropriate because we're not celebrating you, we're celebrating somebody else. It is loud. They're loud when they've gone to a couple of funerals. It doesn't happen frequently, but this is happening. They're loud when they go to somebody's wedding, and you're competing with the people that we're supposed to be observing, that we're supposed to be paying attention to. And so when you're thinking about your look, you don't want to create something that's going to compete with your situational awareness. Now you're going out to a cigar spot and it is, ladies' night for the ladies, and you want to make sure that you garner attention. Kill them, throw it on, compete with every dude there, and make them feel bad, make them regret, whatever they put on. You're going out to a club, you can do that. If you're going to a networking event and luncheon, and you have the personality type that will allow for you to present that outward and extroverted type of experience for people, where people are coming up complimenting you and talking to you about your look, then by all means throw that on and wear it well. But if you are in a space where you are supposed to be paying attention or intention to somebody else, that's what we want to utilize, and we want to complement that situation, not compete or conflict with that space. So a compliment, a lot of times we think is just somebody saying, "Oh wow, you look really nice." But a true compliment is something that's usually so subtle that a lot of people may not even address it. They may not even speak to it because they don't recognize it. And this happened with a client who was going to an event. I believe it was a wedding, but I'm not sure. Maybe it might have been an engagement. It was something romantic, romantic celebration. And it was cocktail attire that was driven. And he wore a sherbet colored jacket. He threw on a gingham shirt, a light blue gingham shirt, and a pair of cream trousers, and then a pair of brown shoes. Now, the interesting thing was, and this was completely by accident for him, but it created a great perspective on complementary looks, was the ensemble and the decorations were more floral driven. So he kind of ended up blending into the space. He didn't fall blend into the background, but he kind of just blended into the space. The sherbet jacket was complementing his skin tone, and he was very inviting. Collar is open, great pair of cream trousers. That was interesting enough where people were saying, "Oh, you look really nice," every now and then, but it never really felt over the top. He got maybe two or three compliments over the course of the evening, but he was able to just enjoy the space and move around, talk to several people, and people remembered him as a well dressed brother, but they didn't remember quite what he wore. He said he talked to his friend. I mean, yeah, they were saying you looked really nice, and they didn't remember what you had on. So it was a compliment to the space. And it's almost like when you meet a young lady. A lot of times guys don't think about this. They want to pay the woman a compliment. Oh man, you're so fine. Whoop, whoop, whoop. But they don't ever think about whether this person that they're complimenting is going to then compliment their life, right? So when I've talked to some younger friends, some younger guys, now that I'm married, and we're talking about relationships, I often will tell them what some mentors and OGs used to tell me. Find somebody who is going to be a great representation of you when you're not around. And that's a real compliment. A compliment is something or somebody representing you, speaking for you before you even step into a room. So a complimentary look is going to project your confidence, it's going to project your intention, it's going to project your entry when you're stepping out, because people are seeing your posture, they're seeing how you move, they're seeing how you walk, and how the elements that you're putting on are draping and are moving with you. And so this creates the desire to have the conversation. This creates that conversation with the young lady where she's like, "Yo, who is that dude? Why is he? Does he have something working for him that is not really working for anybody else? And how can I get next to him?" I was in a, I remember going out to a bar, a club some years ago. I was single, and I remember being on a rooftop, and I had on this burgundy double-breasted jacket. I had a pair of jeans on, but they weren't like blue jeans. They were like this dyed denim that was dark. Had a white shirt on, button-down collar, which was not typical for me. But then had on a pair of loafers. And I remember walking when I walked into the space, I saw a homie, and we're all the way on the other side of the club. So doors here, and then we're sitting like way back here, over here in the cut. And I remember this young lady walks in. She kind of just peeps the area, and our eyes lock for a second. And so it's crowded. Now I'm relatively tall. I'm about 6'4". But our eyes lock, and there's enough space for her to see my ensemble, I believe. And I just tell her, come here, like come here. That's all I do. Oh, come here. So it takes her about 15 minutes because she has to go around the club or around the rooftop to reach me. But she comes straight up to me where it's loud, so we're in each other's ear. I'm talking in her ear, she's talking into my ear. I'm holding her, at the small of her back, and so we get exchange numbers, have a conversation. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna see you later. And my homeboy, who does well, right, has no problem talking to young ladies, confidence out of this world. It's kind of like, fam, you know her? I was like, nah. And he was like, yo, you got it like that? And I was like, I don't know if I have it like that, but I knew that I saw somebody that I was interested in, saw something that I wanted, and I created the opportunity for me to have that conversation. And I can't tell you how many times, like, if I'm well dressed in a space, that's going to complement the space. It's not me doing anything over the top. I don't go to day parties. I don't go to day parties anymore. But when I was going to day parties, I wasn't showing up in a three-piece suit, while everybody else is in tank tops and fitteds or snapbacks, whatever they're wearing right now, and their J's. Like, that doesn't complement the space, right? And in fact, it competes and conflicts with the space because it's conflicting with the overall energy of the space, and it looks like I'm either stuck up or it looks like I don't have any situational awareness, and then it creates a space of competition because it's just like you're sticking out like a sore thumb. This is usually why people don't want to talk to that type of person. It's the same if a young lady is doing the most, right? If you see the young lady and she is 8-inch stilettos coming in, a cocktail dress, and it's the middle of the summer, and she got her boobies out, right? The boobies look good, but she is way over the top, and everybody else, all the other young ladies are in t-shirts, they're in sundresses, maxi dresses, hanging out, enjoying themselves. But then this other young lady comes up doing the most. You don't really want to talk to her. You don't want to engage with her because your perception is that she's probably gonna be stuck up. She's gonna try to play you to the left. It doesn't matter how beautiful she is. It doesn't matter what smile she puts on. Most guys are not going to approach her. There's gonna be a few dudes who are gonna shoot their shot. It's usually not the guy that the woman wants, and the guy who she does want is like, hell no, I'm not making that. I'm not making that move. So in those spaces, a lot of times I may throw on a vest, I may roll up my sleeves, I may throw on the matching trousers so I have a suited type of look, but it still will complement the space. And that is allowing that to speak for me before I step into space. No, I'm not doing what everybody else is doing. I'm elevated, but I'm not drawing too much attention to myself. Now, some of my homeboys would disagree because I throw on my straw boulders in the summertime or in the springtime, and I typically wear hats. So some people say you're trying to peacock and get attention. I disagree. And it's usually not loud. It's a complimentary look. So when we start thinking about um, your compliment, I want you to think about this aspect. Have you ever stepped in front of the mirror and looked at yourself and felt like something was off, right? Felt like something was just not hitting the full on look that you were wanting to achieve, right? Or everything works together, but then it feels bland. It feels regular. It doesn't really feel like it's doing anything. Have you ever been in that situation? They'll call it thing. This is yes, you could say it's après ski. Um, Zeb Color just asked, "Is this après ski look?" You could say that. This is I was running errands today and need to throw on a jacket, so that's what I'm wearing. So if you ever have had that situation, it's usually because something is not complementing either your skin tone, is not complementing the other aspects of the look, or it's not complementing the energy or the space that you're looking to be in. So let's first talk about that first space. A lot of times, guys don't think about their color. They don't think about what colors are going to work with them. And when I worked with the hundreds of guys that I've worked with, what they run into most of the time is the color. And so we'll start talking about like a navy jacket, or they'll say I need a navy suit. And the interesting thing is we'll pull out a book that has all of the basic colors in, and I'll say, okay, what type of navy are you looking for? And I can show you roughly about 7 different navies that you can choose from. You have, and I'm not gonna go through all 7 of them, but like just to give some insights. You have midnight navy, you have a classical navy, you have a contemporary navy, you have a high navy, you have um, a ink navy, so it's not quite midnight blue, but it actually has a little bit more violet in, just to name a few. And with that being said, guys can get overwhelmed because they don't know which colors are going to complement them. And so when I'm doing, even myself when I was getting started, I didn't realize the different types of looks that were going to be the best for me. Now, because I have a more fall, autumn undertone in my skin tone, that's why you see me in oranges, you see me in yellows, you see me in greens, you see me in purples, you see me in burgundies, is because all those fall colors really work well with my skin tone. And so a lot of people will say, man, you look really nice in that jacket. They don't really know why, but they have an awareness that the aesthetically is pleasing to the eye, compliments me. So when I first started doing my navy jacket, I went for a dark midnight blue, but I realized that that had a lot of the indigo or the violet in it, right? Which does work for me. But when I moved to looking for a green undertone with my skin, it really popped. It popped uh, off of my skin tone. Now I haven't gotten this piece yet, but that has been the thought process in how I can continue to enhance my overall look that is complementary to my skin tone. So ask yourself, what colors actually work for me. And I've heard some style experts, which I'm very uh, concerned about for a lot of guys who are following these people. We're not going to name any names, but who will say like nobody cares about that color stuff. That's a farce. It's not that serious. It doesn't really matter. And then I see them and they look washed out, or they look like they have jaundice, right? They're yellow because of what they're wearing. And so it's important for us to understand that that complement can also complement the virality of our skin tone. It can make us look more flush, more alive when we're trying to have those conversations. And what couldn't be better than you having that feeling when you are stepping out and interacting with each other. The next thing that you want to think about is whether or not your patterns are complementary. Oh, I keep on saying complementary, complementing one another. So for a lot of guys who want to be stylish, they think, oh, I'm going to just match patterns on patterns on patterns on patterns on patterns, right? And match 4 patterns together. This does work, but I often say this is for live men, not for freshmen, right? This is not for the beginner or the faint of heart, because if you do it improperly, it creates a conflict for the eyes. Like your eyes are like, it's a lot going on. And so then it just looks like noise and it looks ugly, right? But if you're a person who has started to understand how patterns can work together, and there's really only 2 things that you have to pay attention to, and that's your size of the pattern and the proximity of it in relation to something else, then you're usually golden, right? There's one other element that you can speak to, which I'll get to in a second, but if you just pay attention to the size and the proximity of the pattern, it usually works well. So, for instance, I have a client who has kind of created his signature style around layering patterns. So he has a window pane window pane suit that's gray. It has a very faint light blue window pane in it. And he will frequently pair that with a gingham shirt, a Glen check shirt, or a puppy tooth shirt. Now, all of these work well together with that window pane suit. Well, why? Well, if you think about the gingham check can be very full and be expressive, but it can also be a smaller check. And so when he puts on the gingham check, it's small. It's probably about a half an inch by, or quarter of an inch by a quarter of an inch, right? So it's a very small piece, so much so that when you're looking far back, it doesn't really look like a pattern. It just looks like a very faint blue shirt. And that's actually for all of these shirts. So it really works well against the stark contrast of that window pane that is going to be much bigger, right? It's usually about this big, right? And then he'll pair that if he does want to wear a tie, which he doesn't have to a lot. He'll often throw that on with a rep tie. Now, rep tie just means that it is going to have stripes going a certain way. It's usually associated with prep or Ivy League type of styles that was with the fraternities of the day. But he'll throw that on there. And he may have on something that is blue, a little bit of yellow, some gray in there. He may throw a complementary color on for the blue that is green, but it's more of a teal there. So all these different types of uh, looks can work together. As a side, Zeb Kohler said, "What doesn't work for you? What doesn't work for me is spring colors. So, like a lot of the hot pinks, a lot of the high pinks, they make my face look very, very red, and so it doesn't work. It doesn't accent versus me throwing on, even in the summer, like a darker mauve. Something that's rose is going to do better than a high pink, like a blush pink. But there's a lot of my homies who melanated who can throw on a blush pink and looks great because they have a spring undertone. Winter colors don't really look good on me, so a gray, the classic true navies don't really look the best on me. They kind of just wash me out. So if you ever see me wearing gray, the grays that I try to lean to are going to usually have some element of brown. So they are going to have uh, more of an oatmeal gray, and I can go darker, especially with flannels, with that color versus a classic charcoal gray. Even with my charcoal grays, I try to find something that has a little touch of brown in the flannel, so that it creates a better look. And I can wear pink. I just can't wear a classic pink. I tend to lean more towards rose. I tend to lean more towards the um, the deeper mauve color that I spoke to. And mauve is not quite purple or violet. It's not quite red. It's this kind of in between. So that works very, very well for my skin tone. So I find what complements me, and that also saves me time, money, energy. I don't go looking for shirts that are not going to create compliments. When I wear my blues are often going to have a touch more of green in it, so it's going to look a little bit more teal, especially when I'm wearing the shirts or having shirts made. I pay attention to that. And even when I'm throwing on my whites, I try not to get necessarily a pure white. I may throw on something that has a touch. When I say a touch of yellow in it, touch, not cream shirts, but just almost lighter than an eggshell. And they don't come very frequently. It's very few and far between. But when I do find those, I will make a note for where I need to get those colors from, and they're usually expensive, right? Within that space. So there's a compliment in that space, and so Alan Flusser has said that a man can mix up to four patterns. So you can mix your jacket with your shirt, with your tie. And a lot of guys didn't think about this last one, which is going to be your pocket square, or for the fall winter, your accessories. Because you can also pair that with your scarf. And so if you think about somebody who has a window pane shirt, a window pane suit, right? They then throw that on with a gingham check shirt or a puppy tooth or a or the Glen check, right? Then you can then play with those different looks. Now, the last aspect of this that I'll talk about is going to play into these as well, but I don't want to rush that yet. So you have those elements all working together, and then you can add a pop of color, you can add a pop of pattern in the pocket square. Now, some guys will say, I'm just going to keep it simple, do a polka dot pocket square. I'm going to do uh, a a fun floral pattern if it suits them, or paisley pattern, and that way you don't really see a lot of the look. And so it just looks like two colors with slight designs, especially when you do a puff fold when you're putting it in. So now you have four different pieces that are working together. But one of the things that I was mentioning this entire conversation that a lot of guys don't think about is the intensity of the pattern. So I may mention that the suit had a faint blue window pane, right? And then it was paired with a gingham houndstooth or gun check shirt. So a lot of times when I'm putting looks together for individuals, they'll think I can't wear these together. And it's not until I put the shirt under the jacket that they see that the intensity is so subdued that it doesn't even really show up until you're about 3 to 5 feet away, that you can start seeing the pattern. And even if I'm doing a navy puppy tooth shirt with that light blue, light blue window pane jacket or the suit, it still plays so well because there's a stark contrast. And then if they want to do a silver and navy tie, right, which may have a stripe, it may have polka dots, it may have a classic weave of a foulard, right? You can have all those different types of elements working together. And you see that with a soft pocket square, it looks business professional, it still looks elevated, and it's complementary for the style. So a lot of guys have to pay attention, and they don't pay attention to the intensity of the pattern and the color so that they can create a complementary look. And that way, nothing is really conflicting with the look or competing with your overall image and being what's called too busy for a lot of people when they're putting the look together. And then the last place is to complement the space, which I talked about earlier. Many of us, we are so busy, and a friend of mine brought this up earlier. For a lot of men, we're always in this space of competition, right? When we really hit a look that is dope and that people are riding with, they're like, we're like, not they're like, we're like, man, you see me? It's got a picture of this. I was killing them last night. I was hurting folks' feelings. All the chicks was checking for me. They didn't want nobody else. Like we speak in those terms of competitiveness. We speak in a term that says I am better and therefore other people are reduced. I get it. It's competition. With men, there is this element of a pecking order. We want to know and understand and express who's the best within our community, within our tribe, because also that creates leadership roles. That creates how we're going to structure the people that we move around and we hang around with the understanding that everybody may not lead for everything. There may be different situations where unlikely leaders come to the forefront. So just from a life standpoint, I can't I can't tell you how many times I've had some guys who are not necessarily the strongest, when even as a young person who are not the strongest, but they're the smartest, they're the most clever within a peer group, find themselves thrust into a leadership position, pause, because they are the people who are the most strategic. They're the most capable of figuring out the best way to navigate a situation when brute force is not going to work. Or the guy who knows how to be tactful and can speak for himself and can speak for a group, that knows how to navigate certain social situations for their benefit. There's been homies who, we ready to throw down. I'm not much of a fighter, but there's been a few times where, it looks like it's about to be that. And a homie can step in and knows how to diffuse a situation while not diminishing my masculinity, my homie's masculinity, or the ops, right? Or the others' masculinity within that space. And it's a very dynamic and powerful position to be in, right? So we each have our opportunity to lead in a dynamic way in the space. So it doesn't have to be all about us. And so I get that, but the best leaders often know how to complement a space. So I remember, and I talked about this in my upcoming YouTube video. I apologize for anybody who was waiting on it. It took me a second to get it uploaded and set up, and it's going to continue to improve efficiency. I'm going to continue to improve efficiency and the production of the content, but we're working with what we got right now. But I was talking to a guy that I admire, very, very stylish guy, and he has this navy blue suit, but the navy blue has this pinstripe in it, this burgundy pinstripe that makes the suit look violent. Like especially if you're far back, you don't see that stripe as subtle, but the suit itself looks like this indigo violet. It's a beautiful suit. If I find that they restock that fabric, I'm going to steal it. I'm going to get the same thing that he has because it's just dope. But I was talking to a friend and was saying like the genius of that purchase and of that look is that if he's walking through a steakhouse, if he's walking to an event like a social event, that looks like a navy blue suit. It's dark. There's no um, heavy pattern, no heavy um, weave on there that's going to set it apart. It's just a very subtle and beautiful piece, and the cut fits him well, right? But it's when he leans into the light that you see the subtle element of the stripe and how that really brings the look together. Or if he's in a space in daylight, it's not till you get closer to the piece that it becomes very, very interesting. And it's because it complements the space. It's not drawing too much attention to him, but it's drawing interest. It's drawing the awareness of say that there's something different about this person's style, this person's presentation. And then he'll have a conversation with you. He's a very extroverted individual, have a conversation and really enjoys that dynamic. But what if you're not? Like, what if you're not a overly extroverted person? What if you're a little bit more reserved, a little bit more observant? Well, then that that piece does not elicit or communicate, I want to talk. It just looks very elevated and very sophisticated. So if you have a look together, you have a look on, you step out and somebody sees it, they can say, and they probably will say, wow, that's a really nice suit. Wow, that really looks good. And you can be like, thank you. And that's the extent of the conversation that's going to happen there because it's complementing the space. Now, again, he's not going to Home Depot in the suit, but the spaces that allows for sartorial interactions, that's where he's going to look amazing. And the more that you can create these compliments through color, through the intensity and the scale of the pieces that you're wearing, and then being strategic with the places that you put yourself in, the more you're going to find that people are complimenting you, not with praise and not with some well wishes or affirmations or stroking your ego, pause, right? These people are going to start complimenting your life. You're going to start finding that the people that you hang around have certain levels of elevated taste. They have certain level of elevated conversation. This doesn't mean that has to be stuffy or over the top, right? This means that they're going to have some depth, some range with what they're wearing, right? Within the proximities of how they're moving. And they're going to be interesting because they are interested. And that is the power of a complimentary look. So this week, I want you to try on the outfit you creating a complimentary look and wear it if you have the opportunity 2 or 3 times in 2 or 3 different scenarios. So if you're not a place where you need to really dress up, throw on a jacket that has a pattern, add a pocket square that is not going to have the same intensity or scale in reference to the jacket that you're wearing, and try throwing on a shirt that has a interesting pattern and see how they complement one another. Now here's the thing, you don't even have to go out in it. I just want you to try it on inside your dressing room, right? Inside the dressing room, whether that's your closet or in the bathroom, and see how the look works together. And if you feel confident enough, if you're courageous enough, I want you to step out in it. And then send me some pictures via Instagram at Style Architects, right? And let me know how you put the look together. And I want you to think about the different scenes and scenarios that you may find yourself in. Because then you'll be able to ask, does this complement the space that I'm going to, a space that I'm going to be in? If it's your favorite watering hole, right? Your favorite bar, Is that a dive bar, or is that space elevated? Is it a cigar lounge where people are hanging out and this can complement the look? Or is it going to compete with the space where everybody else is in their joggers and t-shirts and you're coming in, in a sports jacket, shirt, and a pair of trousers? And it may, right? But it's a good space for you to experience because you may like the competition. You don't want it to conflict, but you may enjoy that competition within the space. And then also, I want you to think about some other places that you may not frequent, but you may have to go this week. And then try putting it on in that space. At the very least, you're going to look like you tried. You're going to look like you dressed with intention, like you dressed on purpose. And the purpose, and I always like to say on your purpose, was for you to see how your ensembles complement certain situations. So I want you to try that on, see how it fits you. If it fits you well, like I said, send me some pictures of how this look came together in my DMs. And if you're down for it, I'll post it on my stories. Outside of that, if nobody has any questions, nobody had any questions this week, I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Then we will go ahead and say our goodbyes and we'll get ready for the week. But outside of that, like I said, I want you all to be great today, to show your style, and to remember that dress is nothing more than the expression of a man's state of mind. So you, yes, you should always dress to address your life, your style, your way, right? And with that being said, we'll see you next week. Peace.